Hey, good weekend to you. Welcome to Leading Edge. And Jerry Anderson, good to have you along today. We opened last week, if you recall, with a presidential visit here to Northwest Ohio. And ahead on this program, the very latest, some really important stuff on voting. If you want to be part of this process, a couple of very important dates are fast approaching. I mean, they are imminent. We'll have that for you. But first, let's start with this week and both presidential candidates in Ohio. The occasion, of course, the first debate of this presidential campaign. Dr. Sam Nelson is chair of the Department of Political Science and Public Administration, University of Toledo. Professor, good to see you again. As you know, I hate that question. So who won the debate? If you go in with a favorite, guaranteed you're coming out saying, oh, my candidate won. And what is winning anyway? I mean, it's not like golf where we can actually count strokes and say, I had fewer than you did, I win. But let's start with the idea of winning. Generally, somebody has a goal they set out to accomplish, an objective. Did either President Trump or Vice President Biden get the better of it there?
I think Joe Biden did for two reasons. One, the Trump campaign had set such low bar for him, referring to him as mentally unfit and things like that, that all he needed to do was show up and stand there for 90 minutes and be a normal guy, and he was ahead. The other reason is Joe Biden has a healthy lead in the polls right now. So if nothing happens, if nothing changes, that's a win for him, right? He's got the fourth quarter lead. He just needs to not give up any big touchdowns.
Many are saying this was the worst presidential debate ever. I mean, people who followed him for decades, who have been part of them, even part of prepping. Jake Tapper had my favorite description, calling it a, quote, hot mess inside a dumpster fire, inside a train wreck. But in some ways, isn't that what President Trump wanted?
Yeah, I think when you're behind the strategy he's got is I'm going to drag the other guy down. It worked really well for him against Hillary Clinton. They were both unpopular, and highlighting unpopularity was a winning move for him in 2016, but Joe Biden's not Hillary Clinton.
An observation as we're about a month out now, believe it or not, from Election Day. Gosh almighty. Although people are voting already, we should note that. That chippy in-your-face name-calling approach, we know plays really well with the Trump base. But if he trails in the polls as he does, and that support is locked in, that base is going to be there, doesn't the president's campaign have to ask whether that same approach attracts or repels other people who may have voted yay Trump 4 years ago and who maybe are less convinced now?
Right. Yeah, I think we're definitely seeing that. The Obama to Trump voters, some of them are switching back to Biden, and also suburban women. That's an area you could look at for this effect that you just described. It's a strong effect, and we saw that in the 2018 midterms. They're really, really turned off by what Trump is doing, and the gender gap is enormous.
Biden forces said they really wanted him to look presidential versus the onslaught they knew was coming, and it was, and they prepped him for it. Did he spend too much time down there in the pit?
He was really stuck in a hard place, because if he doesn't defend himself or if he doesn't respond in kind, he looks weak, which I think is what President Trump was trying to do. And Joe Biden has a reputation as being an off-the-cuff guy who will tell somebody to shut up. So it was on brand for him.
Yeah. Mark Twain used the line, I guess it's largely attributed to George Bernard Shaw, saying, hey, don't wrestle with pigs. You both get dirty before you realize that, hey, the pig likes it. Now, I'm not calling anybody a pig here, but the adage goes to picking your battles and then how and where to fight those battles. If we don't have substantive change in the approach, maybe the format, maybe the rules, should we even do this again?
Yeah, in some ways, this was a fight against the very idea of debates, right? It was disrupting the whole notion of having debates with the opposition. People aren't going to watch if it's like this. I mean, this is not the kind of thing people want to bring into their homes.
Yeah. Debates, okay, they don't change minds, do they? I mean, if you go in with your mind made up, a debate isn't going to change it. But both sides tried to sway undecideds. And Dr. Nelson, Sam Nelson, chair, Department of Political Science, Public Administration, UT. I saw one this week that really troubled me, and that is someone who this far along is undecided, says I'm undecided, and may actually look at the train wreck of this past week and say, you know what, I haven't looked at both sides. I'm out. I think I'm just going to sit this one out. How real is that fear in your mind?
Well, I think that's one of the things about a debate like this is it depresses turnout, but the number of undecideds is really small in this election. And there's some group of people that are never going to decide in a presidential election, right? And then those people won't vote. I think this is a pretty small group this time, but it's tough. I mean, I'm somebody who wants lots of participation. I like big democracy.
Yeah,
you know.
Takeaways from this week. You came away truly troubled by some of what you saw based on content.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people are paying attention to the way in which the president didn't denounce white supremacists and the Proud Boys. That's a concern. And he refuses to say that he'll accept the outcome of the election. And so he's really undermining a democratic election by pushing against it and pushing against the legitimacy of the election. That's very, very concerning. However it turns out in November, what the effects of that will be after the election.
What should we be watching for moving forward? I mean, it is, after all, October. An October surprise?
Well, an October surprise is about the only thing left that can happen. The race has been incredibly stable for a year. Nothing much has moved it. So it would take something tectonic shift, something like the Comey letter or the Access Hollywood tape is the only thing likely, I think, to really jumble the race at this point.
Always love talking politics with Sam Nelson, Dr. Sam Nelson, University of Toledo. What a race. My thanks to you, sir, for keeping us on the leading edge of this most unusually and unusually troubling presidential campaign. Hope we can talk again soon.
Yeah.
Thanks, Sam. Appreciate it. When we come back, he lost his police officer's son to a gunman's bullet. Now he wants to be on Toledo City Council. Why? What's the connection there? Let's find out next on Leading Edge.